Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Monday night edition of the People Show on intellectualradio.com, iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. This is Monday, December the 29th, and of course, this is our final podcast for the year of 2025. And we've got a great program coming up for you tonight. Of course, our guest is going to be the Honorable Alderwoman of the 20th Ward. Jeanette Taylor is going to be joining us in just a few minutes, a little bit later on in the program. But I want to talk to you about going into the new year. I don't ever want for us, for every year that we get, I always say that we get two New Years. We get our birth New Year, which is our birth year that maybe we know other people who are born at the same time or the same date that we are. But then we get what is called a corporate or collective New Year, which is the first day of every year. I don't ever want for us, and I'm encouraging all of us, not to become complacent, or no matter how old we get or how many times that the new year comes around and people are making what you call New Year's resolutions, or just a renewal or restoration or a date or a time of refreshment. And I think that we should never, ever grow weary of that, or to say, oh, that's just passe or whatever. No matter what your struggle is or your complication is, and all of us have difficulties, varying difficulties. They could be financial, they could be emotional, they could be spiritual, they could be the loss of a family member, the loss of a job, or maybe the loss of a business transaction, or maybe you mishandle a business transaction and you're losing money, or you're causing the loss of money, or you've disappointed somebody in some way, or in a bad relationship, you've done something that you are not pleased with, or somebody else has done something. So there are varying areas of disappointment and struggle that we all contend with, we all deal with. But we all can attest to whatever the struggle is that we have now. We've had some struggles before. The Bible says that a man that is born of a woman is here for a few days, and those few days are full of trouble. Now, that simply means that whatever days that we are here, we're going to have some difficult times. But all of us, if you have reached a certain age, or if you have reached, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of age, 70 years of age, you have endured some difficult times, whatever area that may be, whether it be in school, whether it be in sports, whether it be with a relationship, various different areas of our experience. Did you encounter some difficult times that may have seemed to be insurmountable to you at that time or during that time? But when we look back, after some time have passed, we look back that whatever that difficulty was that seemed to be insurmountable at that time, we have been able to endure that experience. All of us can attest that we have endured whatever that experience is, or experiences that we've had in the past. There's a story that is told that there was a man who was standing in the middle of an intersection, and there were cars that were barreling down the street, and the man was panicking, and he was distraught that he was going to get hit by a car. And the person was telling him that they not to worry, that you are going to be okay. And he was standing in the middle of this intersection and he was panicking that these cars barreling down the street was going to strike him. And one by one, each one of those vehicles turned off going to the left, some turned off going to the right, some turned off going to the left, some turned off going to the right, some turned off going to the left. None of those cars even came close to striking him because they all veered off and went down a different path. The point is that whatever difficulties that we are facing, whatever mountains that seem to be insurmountable, stand firm, because you will endure and you will overcome. They will not overtake you. I know at the very moment, at the very instant that we are in that particular difficulty, that it seems to be insurmountable. It seems to be a mountain that is going to swallow us up. But you will endure because you have endured. And all you have to do is look back to those experiences that you've had before, and you can reflect on those experiences that you had before, and you can derive strength and energy from those experiences to remind you that, I was going through that particular situation, and here I am today. That situation has passed, and I overcame that situation, and that situation didn't overtake me. It didn't take me out. And you've had several others that you've had the same result. You overcame that, whatever it may be, whatever the difficulty may be. And to you, it was insurmountable. To others, it may not seem to be that much, but the process is the same for everybody. Is that whatever your experience is, whatever the heaviness is, whatever the heavy lifting that you had to do, it seemed as though you are not going to be able to endure it. And you are asking the question, how am I going to overtake? How am I going to overcome this? And many of us have made proclamations to God that if you get me out of this, I promise you I will do this. Many of us have recanted and restated that same thing because we were up against something that at the moment, it was something that was more than we thought that we were going to be able to endure. Well, I want to remind you and you and you and all of us that you have overcome, you will overcome, and we will overcome whatever the difficulties that stand in our midst. In particular, as Black people, we have overcome tremendous, what seem to be insurmountable mountains and challenges. Our people have overcome decade after decade, century after century. We have overcome. For 400 plus years, our people have overcome. We've endured. And in many cases, we have not only endured, not only survived, but we have thrived and thrusted ourselves beyond anybody's imagination and beyond those who would be our enemies that did not want to see us to survive, wanted to see us destroyed. And so I'm saying this is that as we are closing out this year of 2025 corporately, we have 3 more days in this year. This is the 29th. We have 3 more days for this year. We have Tuesday and Wednesday. Actually, we have 2.5 more days till we approach a brand new 2026. And those of us that are blessed to get there, those of us who are blessed to get there, let's look to what we can do together for renewal and restoration, and to liberate and to lift and to advance our people, our communities, so that our communities can grow, our communities can be empowered, our communities can be strengthened. What you and I can do together, that we can lock arms and we can lock our hands together and join with others who love our communities, and to see that our communities are equitably represented and that our communities are equitably invested in. And that is going to be you and I. We can move that needle together, and we can move it from one to the other if we look to the positive side to say in 2026, we're not going to let our idiosyncrasies, we're not going to let our trite and trivial differences get in the way of the larger picture, because all of us, regardless of whatever our disagreements may be, all of us at large want to see our communities liberated and to see our communities thrive. But the only way that that is going to happen is that you and I, we must decide that we are going to take a united path forward, that we are going to ensure that we, as a people, as a body of people across the spectrum of our communities, wherever it is that you live. We live here in Chicago and in Cook County and in the state of Illinois. And here in the Black community, as we look through our experiences as a Black community, not that we are looking through our lens as being anti any other community. We are not looking through our lens to be anti-white. We're not looking through our lens to be anti-Jewish. We're not looking through our lens to be anti-Hispanic or anybody else. What we are looking through is a clear pathway of a lens of our Black experience and what we want and what we must do as a Black community to empower this community, to empower our community. And the way that that happens is that you and I make a proclamation, that we make the declaration declaratively that I am going to support you, you are going to support your neighbor, you are going to support the next person, we are going to support each other for the unified objective of seeing that our community is lifted and invested in, so that we are able to do what it is that we want to do independently as every other community that is enriched with a foundation that they can build upon. We hear ourselves say we have to do for self, but we have to understand in doing for self, there is an infrastructure that is responsible for providing a undergird, a foundation in which that we can build from, just like they provide for every other community. But in order for that to happen, you and I we must develop a collective corporate approach. And I am saying that what I want to do and what I am going to do and commit to doing is that not to be cynical, not to be negative, not to be antithetical to anybody in our community, but that we objectively look at what our conditions are and that we objectively look at how we meet the needs of our conditions. And how we do that and the success of that depends on you and I deciding that we must understand that we have to be together in order for our communities to have the kind of vibrancy and success that our communities absolutely, absolutely deserve. That is what you and I, that's what you and I should declare. I'm declaring that, and that's what you and I have to do. We must drop the idiosyncrasies that get in the way of our progress, the trite, trivial differences that we see. And we must look through a lens and look through that lens of Blackness with a profound proudness. We do not have to apologize for who we are. We do not have to walk around with our heads down for who we are. We are as much a right of the resources where we live in this city as anyone else. And we are terribly underrepresented. But in order for that to change, we must make and understand that we, as a people, have to understand. I want for us to have that kind of attitude going into 2026. Don't ever, ever become complacent. Don't ever become um, stagnated because it's another new year, and don't take the attitude, well, it's just another new year. Yeah, it is another new year, but we need to look at it as another opportunity that we have been provided. And we have another year of living, we have another year of experience, and so we should be a little more wiser, and we should be a little more informed, and certainly we should be a lot more together that we can address these issues, that we can enrich our company. All right, listen, we are going to have a great discussion tonight. My guest is here with us, and of course, she is going to be sharing with us her analysis of the state of the city as it relates to our government. And we want to talk about this last budget, this controversial so-called alternative budget that many of our representatives, many of our older persons voted in favor of, not really understanding why that is and what the rationale behind that is. Wanted to get her view as to what her thoughts were about that, and then want to get her idea of what her vision is for the future, for the coming year, this brand new year that we are entering in, and how she sees that we can all participate together. And she is the Alderwoman of the 20th Ward, Jeanette Taylor, who has represented the ward well, and she is here with us tonight. Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, how you doing? Happy holidays.
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I am doing
Try
well.
to
I'm
figure
doing
out how to
well.
sit.
All right. Okay. Well, how are your holidays?
Um, I couldn't go out of the country because we still figuring out budget. So I'll go at the end of January. So
Uh-huh.
didn't want to be able to be there in case something dramatic happened or there was a change in strategy or we did something different. So
Yeah. Well, I guess depending on who, on what side of the aisle is, it was something dramatic that took place. And so I wanted to have a conversation with you to get an understanding from your perspective as to what your thoughts were about this. Uh, I guess they call this alternative budget or whatever the title is that they gave it, and
so
why
you know
we
how
had.
sometimes you ask for stuff. We always wanted a strong council, a weak mayor. That's what we got.
Mhm.
If we being honest, that's exactly kind of what happened. It just happened in a way that people from movement and the mayor was not prepared for. And so what I'll say is I wasn't on either side. I wanted everything to be on the table. And so if you're taxing our taxpayers, do we know universities and hospitals buying a nonprofit and then they don't pay taxes? They don't pay for water. They don't pay for services. I wanted everything to be on the table. I wanted us to look at how we do enforcement, except for in the black and brown neighborhoods. Like I wanted everything to be on the table. And so I'm really disappointed in the mayor and the city council of this. I got you, because that's what it is. They playing a I got you instead of this is what's right for the citizens of Chicago. And I honestly feel like people have forgotten why they're there, including myself. I'm supposed to be in that space and be an organizer, but I'm human also. I get tired of trying to get people just to sit down and talk with each other, sit down and communicate. And that's on both sides. That's on the alternative group, that's on the mayor's office as well. And so the constituents and citizens that we serve are kind of in the middle of what we can't do right, which is actually talk to each other and work with each other to actually get things where we don't have to tax out um the citizens of Chicago. And I was a no, because if everyday people could pay, so could corporate America. And I'm tired of the sky is falling and they gonna leave. Chicago is Chicago is a country, a city known around the world. And so we're worldwide. Y'all go places, people like, where you from? Chicago. And most of the times it's positive. Some of the times people are scared because of all the things they hear about us on the news. But for the most part, we're 51 people who should be able to sit down and work year round, not just in September, not just when it's budget time, year round, to say, how do we make sure we're taking care of people's services, how we're making sure things get done on every side of the city, and how we live within our means. I think people forget the budget is we're such in big deficit because we boosted so many services during COVID with the opera money. And so the opera money has run out. And of course, we ain't on good terms with DC, which I don't know anybody who would be. And so we're not going to get the federal bailout that we normally would get. And we're at odds with the state. If we like, let's talk about it. The governor and the mayor don't get along. They're not working together. And them not working together hurts us. And so the people are stuck between the state, the federal. The county really doesn't play a big part, but the state and the federal and the city are all fighting amongst each other, and that ain't working out for the people we pay to represent.
And I think that as a citizen, that we have some culpability in that. I think that that we have abdicated the strength that we have as citizens. Because if the citizens were to mobilize ourselves together with the numbers that we have to say to our representatives that if you do not represent us equitably, we know how to make changes. Nobody who is in a political office doesn't want to return to that office. And that includes the governor. That I said to Brandon Johnson that I believe, and I said this to him, I said, you cowered on the transactions, the financial transaction tax, that we have very wealthy people that are doing billions of trades. And because the governor, who is a billionaire, who is going to always side on the side of his colleagues,
Billionaires. That's right.
right, of billionaires. So I didn't expect for the governor to agree to it. However, I don't care that the governor doesn't agree to it, but the governor is responsible to the citizens. And if you had come to the citizens, if you had gone around the city and you had put the plan to the citizens at what we need to do and what you were trying to do, and that you needed to get the support of the citizens, you might have had a better chance of having the citizens to say to the governor that if you don't support this plan that we want, we will not be supporting you come election time. That is how we as citizens have to use our leverage, but also we expect for our representatives to communicate with us, but to, you get into these places, which I call sometimes silos, and a lot of times um, elected representatives get into office and they're just into that silo where they're just talking to each other, but there's not much communication between the representatives and the constituency and putting together a strategy as to how we're going to approach this. It should not always be the piggy bank of working class people and poor people to pick up the tab every time that a budget needs to be balanced. And that whenever somebody is asking for the ultra wealthy to pay a little bit more, that somehow that is a insult or a big boogeyman. But it's easy to come back to the working class and the poor to say you're going to pay it and that we are not a threat. Somehow the corporations are much more of a threat than the people who actually do the voting and putting these representatives in office. So I think that there's some culpability on all sides. I think that
Absolutely.
as citizens, we have, in many respects, we have abdicated our responsibility of holding those persons who are voting against the interest of the masses, right? Because I don't believe that we have to be, you know, citizens against any particular public body. That when we can work together, we work together. But if there's a public body that is not working in the interest of the city citizens, then that needs to be addressed. And the citizens have to play a significant role on keeping those people in the public bodies accountable. Now, we also expect that when we do elect somebody, we are entrusting them with power to go there to equitably represent the interest in fairness, not to go there and to compromise us because somebody has the ability to write a check that goes into their campaign coffers that they know that they're not going to get by and large from the citizens. So I think that there is some culpability on our side, but there's a greater responsibility of the people who are in those public spaces because you have been entrusted by the public to go there to represent what is fair and what is in the best interest of the public. And it is astonishing to me that when I looked at the tabulation of who voted in favor
Why?
of
Why are you
what,
astonished? These the same people that
well,
voted to sell the parking meters. These the
yeah, but
same
I
people
don't.
that vote against the interest of young people. You shouldn't be. And look at a lot of these folks have been in office for decades. And let me say this, and this is Alderwoman Taylor's experience. I can't speak to
Mhm.
anybody's experience. I feel like I had all this support when I was running, and when I finally got in office, people just left me and was like, "Oh, she'll figure it out." Oh, and that's not how it works. The same way that
That's
you
not
helped me get in
that
office, the same way you helped me
you're
get in
supposed to
office
be
is
there
the
to back
same
you
way you
up.
sit with me. Absolutely. That too often doesn't happen, especially with people who are not organizers. I will say this, look at who people get their money from. Most of my
Mhm.
monthly donations, which is not a lot, come from people who knew me before or people who met me on the way and want to support me. I don't take money from corporations. I make them pay for things in my community so they're directly not giving it to me so that they know I can hold them accountable. And so we have to get with our elected officials. We have to stand behind them, but we also have to hold them accountable when they don't do what we asking them to do. And we got to pick our poison. Are we going to get in bed with the people? Are we going to get in bed with the unions? Or are we going to get in bed with the corporations? And it's not hard for people who are morally stable. One of the things I asked
Mhm.
God for when I got into this space is like, why would you wait until I'm 43 years old? I'm going through menopause. I lost my mother. I got a divorce because running for office. Why would you put me in the space? And what he said to me was you wasn't humble. And so you got a bunch of people who are not humble, who don't understand that the power that they actually have belongs to the people. This power that I got is not mine. It's the people allowing me. And so when I make decisions, my community calls me and say, "Hey, why did you make this decision? Or could you vote on this? Or could you support that?" They're also in my
Mhm.
office saying, "How can we create legislation to change some of the stuff that's been done in the past?" And so we have to start doing that. And there's no hiding place anymore. Ain't no such as I ain't gonna vote. I'm gonna sit this one out. That's why they get to do what they want to do, because we are not supporting the people. We are not at the table. We think, oh, they got a couple of people. And think about this: seniors vote more than anybody. Why? They vote more than
Right.
anybody. They really have to say so, which is why you see people do all these events with seniors. They show them off, but are they sitting with the table with them and asking them what do they really need? And so that's a question I always ask. I got an open door policy. If I make a vote or a decision that you don't agree with, you can call me. We can talk about it. I'll tell you why I made the decision. I'll have the conversation, but I will also ask, what would you have me do different? But remember, I come from a different background than a lot of them. I come from community organizing. So I see it as different. I don't see it, I'm the end all. And I struggle in this space, to be honest, being an organizer, because I try to get them to see that we all want the same things. We all want safe, clean communities where we can go up the street and walk around the corner to the things that we want to see in our community. Tell me who doesn't want that. Everybody does. How we get to it is the question. They've gotten through it through pouring money from the tips. They've gotten through it just underhandedly because every administration that's been there has done what the rich and powerful want them to do. We had a corporate head tax before. Who took it back, Rom? The person y'all vote was about to vote in 3 times?
Mhm.
We continue
Mhm.
to vote for the same people. I am not a fan of JB Priscus, and it's because I really feel like during election time he runs to the black community. Everybody that works for him is at the black community. He pays people well. Then when it's time to legislation, who is he talking to? Who is he listening to? It ain't us.
It's not us. Well, that therein lies, the problem. Here it is. We are the largest single voting block of any ethnic group in the city of Chicago and the county of Cook. In the city of Chicago, we're more than 600,000. In the county of Cook, we're almost 1.5 million. There is no other population that has that number of registered voters, and therefore, but they all run to it. Here's Brendan Riley, who has probably never been past Madison Street, now running for Cook County, who shows
Who's
up.
never
He
stood up for
shows
the
up.
black community, who had a
Never.
whole fit when we wanted to decide we wanted to name Lakeshore Side DuSable Drew Drive, and he only didn't
Right.
want it because it was going to be named after the black man who discovered it. I
Correct.
wouldn't and what I will say is why he my coworker. I don't agree with him politically. I don't agree with him morally. So it ain't nobody
Right.
I would be voting for. We got to do our homework on people before we get them in
Absolutely.
office. We can't
Yeah.
just
Well,
glitter and glance them. Look at all the things he's vote for. Look at what he
right.
said in the community. And silence is violence. How many
Yes.
times did he not speak up? How many times that he didn't say things? And so there are a bunch of things that we got to do different. And it's having conversations with our young people about them getting involved. Because people have been sitting here 10, 20. I got one more term in me. After I get my 10 years, Alderwoman Taylor is going in other pastures. Because what I feel like is I've given up a lot for this job. I've done a lot of things that my community is proud of. There are some things that have not changed as fast as I want them to, but I've made my mark. I've set it up the stage for the next person to come say, I can carry on, I can do it my way, but these are the things we can't do in the community. And too often in the black community, we don't do that. Think about Congressman Danny Davis. How long did Danny Davis sit in that seat? Good, bad,
Well, too long.
indifferent. Absolutely. That happens
Yeah,
with
too
a
long.
lot of black electeds. That happens with
Mhm.
electeds, period. And so
Right.
I'll never forget Governor Quinn was talking about term limits, and people were like, he crazy. I'm like, no, that's actually smart. And so people don't get complacent. People don't do things because see, a lot of people make decisions to your point, and you said it earlier, so they can stay in those seats. I wasn't never
Hmm.
supposed to be in this sea, Mark. This ain't never where
Hmm.
I was supposed to be. Not in a million years as a young girl. You would have told me I was gonna be Alderwoman of 50,000 people telling people, hey, this what you gonna do in my community, this what you ain't. I would have never thought of it. And so I'm here for a minute. I'm here to get the lesson. I'm here to teach folks, hey, you can change your community. You can push your alderman and say what you do and what you don't want. You also can replace these people. They don't have to be in office. All you got to do is, and this is one thing that we all got to do the work. What are people
You got
doing
to do
before
the
they're
work.
running for office? Absolutely. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't do the work. They think because they can get
Mhm.
close to an elected official and they can pass it over for them. But I tell people all the time, no matter how much money you spend on an election, if people don't go out and vote, you ain't getting in office.
Right. Right. Well, that's where I um, obviously struggle, and because I've been in Chicago now 40 years. I moved to Chicago November 18th, 1985. I've been here as twice as long as I was where I grew up at. And I love Chicago. I love this is my home.
Hmm.
And I care about Chicago. I care about the Black community. When people talk to me, I said, listen, I look through a lens of Blackness because that's what I am. I look through a lens of Blackness
Absolutely.
of how our government must invest in our people equitably as they invest in anybody else. I'm not anti anybody. I'm just pro Black.
That's right.
And
That's
I'm
right.
not
Pro
going to,
black does not mean anti anything, but that's the
doesn't mean that at
narrative they
all.
will push.
Right.
Absolutely. I love living
Now,
in my community. I wouldn't move. Even when I decide to leave, I still plan to live in my community. But we have to teach that to folks. Think about this. We're starting to make sure that Black people and young people get in these spaces in government and in the fire department, in the police department. When they get their money, the first thing they do is move. Not
right.
realizing that's how you hurt your community. You stay. You find somewhere to
Right.
stay and you build and you develop. And let's not act like these communities weren't ruined by 121 North Clark. They played a pivotal role in the South and West Side becoming the communities that they are. And so I
Without,
always tell people I'm playing in a game that I don't know the rules to, and I'm hoping that I could roll the dice and get $200 and pass go. This game is already built. These people, it's so bad, Mark, that myself and I work with one of the other alders to make sure we can have evening meetings. People won't even agree to evening meetings. So let me get this straight. You want working people to take off their jobs, lose their hours to come down there and listen to y'all for a decision we've already made? Make it make sense.
right. Exactly.
We got
Exactly.
two meetings going on at the same time. I can't do my job in one meeting if I'm running to another meeting. I'm not paying attention. I don't know what I'm voting on. And so it's us being honest with ourselves, but it's also us doing something about it. And right now we have an opportunity to do some great things. And I don't know how long that's going to last. But we got an opportunity to create some real change. And the mayor's budget was on the money, if I'm just being honest. What happens is, or what's been happening with this administration is they're not talking to their people. Just because I trust you and we allies don't mean I'm gonna let you lead me to the lake to jump over. You got to tell me
Hmm.
what we going to the lake for. You got to tell me what I'm supposed to do when I get there.
Well,
And
this
so
is the
on both
problem.
sides.
Yeah, this is the problem that I have expressed to Brandon and his people. Your
Yep.
communication is the biggest part of the problem. What you are doing and the plans that you have, they may be great plans, but the people
Mm-hmm.
don't know what your plans are. And if you're not communicating those plans to your people, how do you expect for people to support you and what you are doing?
Absolutely. So
Right?
when he
The
talked about
people,
taking tiffs and him talking about the social media tax and him it was a social media tax, the TIF, and a corporate head tax. It wasn't that people didn't agree on it. It's because we didn't know until he did his speech. And so
right,
if you got allies and people who are supposed to um support you, you tell them what you do. You don't get us on the floor, have your speech, and then say what you think. Those conversations shouldn't have been happening in August and in September. And so I made the statement before, was movement really ready for government? And I got ostracized for it. I got talked about, I got threatened. I had to get security because I said we weren't ready for this. And look what's happening. We could have made better decisions. Bring home Chicago was not wrong, but because of the messaging, or because you wouldn't put the question that people wanted to you to, was should Chicago be a sanctuary city? And while it's a referendum, it's non-binding. You didn't have to follow it, but you didn't do it. You
right.
didn't listen to people. And so there are some rookie mistakes that have been made by the mayor, but also my coworkers who've been there 20, 30 years. Don't just organize with the people who you cool with or you're friends with. You talk and organize with everybody. And so when you look at the people who voted for the alternative budget, you'll see they're a mix of people. They're not really one-sided, but you know who the majority of the folks, right? The majority of the people, and let me say this, and I'ma say it because who gonna whoop me? Some of those people on there just hate Brandon Johnson because he's a black man. It ain't no other way
Period.
to put it. It ain't no other way to
Period.
cut it. It is what it is, and we can say what it ain't. There are a bunch of elders that I can speak up for to say that they tried to work with them, and because of whatever past things that have happened in the past with him and them, they're not working together. But that still hurts our people. And so
Sure.
I've just been, if you notice, this is the only interview I've taken. I really haven't said anything because I'm mad at everybody because you got 51 people who could have made a budget that would have made the city proud. It could have got us moving. We wouldn't have to worry about paying taxes, fines, and fees. And just because we didn't talk to each other, it didn't happen.
Yeah, and my criticism for Brandon, because I sat down with Brandon before he ran. I sat down with him before he ran, and the only thing that I have is my word, and the only thing that I see to somebody else, the value is their word. And if you give me your word, I expect for you to hold to your word,
Mm-hmm.
and then not to capitulate for somebody else's political interest. Now, I said to Brandon before he even announced that he was running, the corporate head tax that was put into place by Daley, that stayed into place, all the way through up to Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel is the person who decided to get rid of the corporate head tax
Mm-hmm.
and simultaneously take the corporate head tax off of corporations and put a tax on working class people and the poor people with something called speed cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneously, these two things were done so that you would take the responsibility off of people who were doing very well,
Mm-hmm.
and it would not have changed their lives to put a tax on poor people and working class people who were just trying to get from point A to point B. So you did that, and nobody said a word. They were very silent about that. They capitulated to that. I'm talking about the alders at the time. Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Johnson is not the person who closed 50 schools and that we have to pay
Absolutely.
$150,000 or $200,000 a year to maintain 50 closed buildings
Vacant
that we pay
buildings. I
more
got
than
the most
18.
vacant buildings. I know.
Yeah. So Brandon Johnson is not the person who sold off a $10 billion asset for one tenth
Yep.
of what it was worth. And
What
those
it's
people have
worth.
gotten their
Yep.
money back in 13 years, and they now have another 62 years to make billions upon billions of dollars. That was
And they
not
are.
Brandon, right? So,
Yep.
but I have to look at the alders that are elected by Black people, by and large, that are not billionaires, and how we could have these alders to vote for a budget that protects the ultra wealthy in not be held accountable, or at least not have to come to the constituents and say, this is why I voted for this bill. But that's where I believe our place as citizens come into place, because they don't feel threatened. They don't feel that they're being held
That's true.
accountable. So they believe that they can make these decisions without any consequences. Now,
Because they
uh,
made worse decisions and still stayed in office. Think of all of the people
absolutely
who voted for the parking meter that are still there. They are still in office. They are still elected official. Because we, as the people, we have a responsibility. We keep electing them. They do one good
right,
thing. They give away some turkey, some hams, or something. They do something fancy. They give up a fancy speech, but never vote in the interest of their community. We better pay
right.
attention.
Or give you some kind of festival in the summertime and you go dance around for 15 minutes and thinking they're doing something for you. Um,
No.
you know, I just, I don't know what it is and how we do it. But
We
some
build our
way,
own. How many of these people are really from Chicago? How many of these people have ever organized? Have these people? I'm gonna tell you something I learned a long time ago, and one of my elders said to me: "Until poor people are viable candidates for running for office, our democracy is always gonna be a sham. They don't know what it's like to be hungry after feeding their kids. They don't know what it's
Right.
like to have the lights turned out. They don't know what it's like to try to figure out how you gonna get to work. You praying that coworker gonna take you because you ain't got bus money because your car ain't working. They don't know any of those things. So I ain't never had to feel the pain. And so they don't care about you.
Right.
They're elitists. They are elitists all the day. Listen, I don't want anybody to feel the pain of going to bed hungry. I don't want to feel the pain of having their lights and gas turned off. I've been there. I know what that feels like. And what I've tried to do is be as vulnerable as possible in that space and tell people these are how these decisions affect you. Think about this. They closed 50 schools. Where are those young people at?
Right.
Where there's never
Right.
been any accountability for the people who wasted the money, for people who kept their jobs, and we still recycle the same Negroes. Every one of
Mm-hmm.
those people that were part of the school closing are now in high positions in CPS. Who made that decision? It wasn't Brandon. So don't put it on Brandon. That was going
Right.
on way before Brandon got there. He is playing in
Mm-hmm.
a game that I honestly feel like we just can't win until black people say enough is enough, till we get and I remember my mother telling me this story about when they lived down south, when people were fighting to get to just vote. She was like, young people did it because parents didn't want to lose their jobs. I understand that because I'm now in that position. I do it. I'm never going to go vote against the interest of my people, but I also want to make sure that my kids have a safe place to stay. We have somewhere to live. But at the end of the day, it's no hiding place for anybody. Everybody gonna have to put their voice. Everybody gonna have to go to the polls. Everybody gonna have to sit at the table with elected officials and say, "Hey, this is the legislation that protects us." And that's just not in the city council. We better be at the county. We better be at the state, and we daggone sure better go to DC. See, they've been
At every
playing, they
level.
set this game up long before we got to play it. And so it's funny
Right.
how people be like, you got 20 elected officials and they can't, you got 20 people, which half of the people been paid off for years. Let's not act like they ain't got all paid off every election. Let's not act like when they person got in, when Rahm Emanuel and when Daley got back in, they didn't pay their people off. You could go look at it. It's records
Right.
of it.
Without question. Without question. This is why the citizens, we have to organize, certainly, and I believe it's organizing as well as educating for our people to recognize the power that we have available to us that we don't
Hmm.
use.
But we
So
also got to
that
meet people where they are. We got to
absolutely.
meet. We got to go to the churches. We got to go to the schools. We got to go to the playgrounds. We got to go to the block club meetings. It is not a space that we cannot go. We have to go, especially if we want to change the dynamics. I always tell young people, like, y'all are our future. Y'all are gonna fix what we messed up. But where those leaders are, how are we training them? Are we bringing them in our offices? I'm the oldest person
Well,
in my office. Everybody in my office is under 40. That's intentional. A, so they'll learn, and B, I can learn from them. I want to know what they thinking. I want to know how they see the lens. It's quite different than what you and I see. And so they
right.
need to be a part of the conversation, and they need to be able to run for these offices as well. I'm gonna tell you, I don't anybody who can't tell me a person that they're bringing up to be their predecessor, I can't support. You don't got a
Mhm.
predecessor, no, because that means you think that you the greatest thing, you done it all, everything in your community or your district or wherever is great, and you don't you just gonna stay. No, I got a couple of
Or
young
either
people that I am moving to that.
they're playing to the people who own them. There's something that's called a meritorious
Mm-hmm.
manumission. And I put a piece out about that during the mayoral election when all of these uh, black alders
Well, supporting Paul
endorsed
Vallis.
to support Paul Vallis. Now,
Yep.
they were not ignorant of Paul Vallis's record. They were not
They
ignorant of
just
his
knew they
record.
were gonna
So
be supported. They knew that
they
they were
knew
gonna
they
get what
were
they wanted.
right. And so they
Yep.
thought that they had it. So I put out a piece and I called it, "These are your meritorious manumissions." They are protecting the white man's property so that they could have their own liberty. Because that's what that law was back in 1710 in Virginia, that if you were a slave and you helped to protect a white man's property or the slave owner's property, or to trick on another slave that was trying to escape to freedom, you earned your freedom. So
Yep.
that was what that looked like to me during the mayoral election. And several of them called me to ask me, why would you put out such a thing? And I asked the same question.
The truth hurts.
Why would you support somebody who has proven that he works
He
against
started
our
academic probation. Like,
right?
did we forget that? We forgot
Yeah,
that, right? Schools have been on academic probation for 30 years, which means they get no
right.
extra money, they get no extra support, they have no autonomy. But then you talk about the kids can't read, they can't write, they can't do any of those things. It started
Mhm.
with him.
Yeah, I saw him at Bruce Dumont's memorial, and he was there talking with Bob Pierretti, and they were talking about this whole gaming tax things, and they wanted to talk about Brandon Johnson. I had to make them aware of that. What you're talking about, all of those things that you're talking about, Brandon Johnson was not in office. Brandon Johnson had nothing to do with those issues. Brandon Johnson is not the person who dug up Meg's field. Brandon Johnson is not the person who
Said,
decided that we were going to tax poor people and pay, $17 million of managing empty buildings. That wasn't Brandon Johnson,
and
right?
say Brandon
So,
Johnson didn't take away Cornell Drive.
right.
Brandon
No,
Johnson didn't do a lot of
yeah, he didn't take
things.
away Cornell Drive. He wasn't going. Brandon Johnson was not the person who decided that you were going to vote to expand Hyde Park to 67th and Stony Island. That
Hmm.
was not, none of that. So, and the idea that somehow we are going to balance a budget on the backs of poor people by putting gaming in our communities, that was something that we should be looking forward to. But you
I'm gonna be.
you you have
I'm
an
gonna
answer.
be. So the option is to say that you don't want your world exclusively to have gaming, and I don't, because I see what it does. You got people who get their checks on the first, and they're in the stores, because we got a few of them already who are sitting on those machines from the time the store open to the time the store closed. That's not what we need. I didn't even agree with the casino because it made no sense. We're close to Indiana and all of the Hammond and all these other places that got big casinos, and we gonna build another one. Make it make sense.
Well, there's been studies here that was done even when Quinn was in office. There's been several studies that have shown that communities that have income that is plus 50,000 plus do not want gaming, do not want casinos. The only communities that they seem to have been putting those things in are communities that are poor communities. And I always said that if gambling casinos were such a panacea to prosperity and fixing problems, then why is Indiana look the same way that it looks now? If you drive into Indiana, the only
I
places
know.
that look like they're prospering are the casinos. Everything around them is falling apart. If you drive through
Yep.
Indiana, it's like a desolate community, and you get depressed driving through there. So the idea of putting a casino, because that casino downtown is going to fail ultimately. It is not going
It's
to
failing
succeed.
now. Ain't no ultimately it's failing as we
Yeah,
speak. You
I
can't
mean the
even
fact
if
that
I walk in the casino right now and somebody calls me Alderwoman Taylor, I have to walk out. Did you know that? Those are the type of rules they have in place. Not that I'm going to the casino. Only way I'm going to the casino if they got a buffet. And I would rather go to the ones that are in Indiana because the buffets is way better. And so
yeah,
it's failing as we speak. But
right.
these are the same people that you all are saying they was right to have an alternative budget and that made sense. And if we tax the corporations, they gonna leave. Where they going?
Well, first of all, there's no evidence of that. There is no evidence
It
of
ain't
any
even no.
corporation.
It's not even more than evidence. What we got to realize is those corporations paid people. That's why the rhetoric was big. That's why it was so many messages and ads and text messages to say, call your alderman and tell them we don't want a corporate head tax. We want to leave. I like shopping with small mom and pop anyway. I like
Right.
being able to go talk to somebody. I like being an individual in the store. I like the people knowing my name. That's what I grew up in. That's what I want to get back to us too. Corporate America don't want that. They want you to come in their corporation, spend their money. They make billions of dollars while they pay their people $20 an hour. Make it make sense.
Right. And our people spend billions of dollars with their
All
corporations.
our
These
money. We ain't
corporations,
saving nothing, Mark.
yeah, these corporations are not going anywhere. They are experiencing record profits. They're not moving to Iowa. They're not moving to Sioux City, Kansas, right? Just the same thing I said about the trades. They're not moving out of Chicago. They are in the proximity of being in where we are in Chicago. For them to exercise trade relies on their ability to make a trade and to transact that trade with speed. They can't conduct that from anywhere else, Iowa, any of these so-called places that they claim that they're going to do. But my position is, if you don't want to pay your fair share, bye. We're not
That part.
benefiting from you being here. Let them
Absolutely.
move. Let them move. But that is not going to take place. That's just a threat. That is not going to happen. And like you said, they're using people and paying people pittance to make a phone call, to call somebody so that they can justify making a decision that is antithetical to the very people who they are supposed to be representing.
That's
Um,
true.
we've got we've got to find a way. People like yourself and myself and others, we've got to find a way that we have got to get the masses or close to the masses of our people together, that our people can say this is not going to continue. We're not going to allow it to continue. For people to recognize that they do have the power. The power is in the hands and the votes of
People.
our people.
That's right.
It is
That
in the
is
hands and the
absolutely
votes
right.
of our people. They come to our community election time. Pritzker comes to our community election time. Brendan Riley goes down to my former church that I happened to catch on Facebook. And I had to go straight to my computer and post about Brendan Riley down at Facebook with down at Lagos Baptist Assembly, which is at 41st and King Drive now.
Okay.
And Brendan Riley, Willie Wilson, and um, I just had the had his name in my. He's running for congressman. I can't. Congressman Davis's seat.
LaShawn Ford.
Not LaShawn Ford. The former commissioner. Um, I don't know why I can't think of his name, but it'll come to me.
Boykins.
Boykins. So
Mm-hmm.
Willie Wilson is supporting Boykins. Look, Willie Wilson and I
Willie
tried to
Wilson
work.
don't live in Willie Wilson runs his $1 million business in another state. Like,
Yeah,
let's
he does.
and this is
Yeah.
so let me tell you what my problem would been with all of them. Tell me what's the work you've done to create safer, better communities. What conversation have you had with people? Are you meeting with young people? Are you talking to people? Like, what are you doing? And a lot of times they show up during election time, but you ain't done nothing
No,
doing
you're
the
giving
community
somebody
in the year,
$25 gas cards and that sort of thing, which I think,
which is the
you know,
tax write off
it's a tax write-off, but it's more than this. It's an insult
to our
to
community
suggest that you're going to come and give
and get
people,
our
you know,
vote for $25. Absolutely.
$25 to think that you can buy us off. Now, I happen to know that Willie Wilson is a Republican. Willie Wilson does
Hmm.
not
You
represent
said
any
it.
type of progressive ideas. I know Willie Wilson. You know, we're used to his office used to be on the same floor as mine. Willie Wilson tried to take on an issue, and I tried to pull his coattail to tell him this is not an issue that you should be on. You're on the wrong side of the issue. The man told me, "Don't talk to me about politics." Okay, fine. I don't need to talk to you about politics, but I certainly will go and talk to my people about your politics to make sure
Absolutely.
that our people know who is actually uh, supporting them because
Who not gonna be a puppet in office?
abs- look, the only time that Willie Wilson comes around giving away these $25
Is when he's
gift
running
cards
for something. Yep.
is when he's running for something or when he is trying to support somebody else running for something.
Yep. That's
So
true.
that, but I think that our people are smart enough to know that that gimmick is just a gimmick because he's
It's
never
just
got
it's so
more
much
than.
misinformation, and now social media. Why it's a blessing, it's the devil, because people get up and say whatever they want to say, and there's no check facting. Nobody goes to investigate. They just go with what people say, and if you get enough clicks, it goes viral, and that becomes the truth. I am just so tired of people rewriting history. Like, we didn't
Mhm.
create this chaos, we didn't create this mess. We got an opportunity to fix it. We got an opportunity to make it right, and we do that by working with each other. We do that by organizing. We do that about talking about the things that actually hurts our community.
Right. That what I say to people is get the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Get the facts. Your opinion is your opinion, and you're entitled
Mm-hmm.
to your opinion, but you're not entitled to alternative facts because the facts are the facts.
Absolutely.
If you can't substantiate factually what somebody has done in terms of a public
Mm-hmm.
policy to the interests of our community, then that's your opinion about them. I'm going to give you what I know to be the facts. Now, if you're going to come and
Mm-hmm.
have a debate with me, you better bring the facts because if you don't, I'm going to check you on that. I'm going to check you on that. We have too many people who are allowed just because they have these so-called large platforms that are just spewing out misinformation to people. Um, and people are holding these people up as though they are some holy grail, when in fact, they are people who are being used to harm our communities. And so,
Absolutely.
all right, well, listen, I'm not going to hold you. You've been here much longer than we were going to hold you, but I certainly always appreciate you coming. But I
Of
always
course.
say and wanted to let you know that I am interested in what is best for our community, what is best for our people, and not what's best for the rich, not what's best for the wealthy. I tell people I've been blessed in my life economically, but my heart is always with people who are on the bottom that are not being represented with equity. And our community has been, I say it all the time, pimped and prostituted over
Ooh,
and
say
over
it.
and over.
We got so many
Uh,
poverty pimp folks. But Mark, what I will say is, since I ran in 2018, and even though I wasn't your first choice, I've always appreciated you because A, you've been honest. You've never lied
mhm.
about who you are, and you haven't stepped away despite the things that you've been through. I've appreciated you telling the truth and you being honest, because too often we don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I think people, we're at a space where, and I use this with my kids. We become these, excuse me, punk ass parents because we don't want to hurt our kids' feelings or we don't want to tell them no, but we're doing them a disservice. And so it's a
Right.
disservice to not be honest. And so I just appreciate you being honest and talking about some of the hard truths that people want to face. People don't often realize that, all electeds answer to somebody. I'm just
Mhm.
blessed enough to be able to answer to the people. I don't care who you are. When I don't agree with you, I just don't. And whatever the price is, if the price is losing this seat, I am okay with that because I'm going to be blessed to be somewhere else where I can help somebody and I can speak the truth. And I appreciate you being a servant leader. See, we got people who are serving themselves. You've been a servant leader, and I always told the truth to us. Whether, because I remember the school doing school closing times, you having some conversations with us, and they were hurtful to hear about what was going
Mhm.
on in the school buildings. We were fighting for things, and we're not seeing young people being educated, and that was a hard truth for me to swallow at the time. And for a small minute, I was mad at you, but also I had to understand that you got the wisdom. I am supposed to sit at the feet of my elders and listen. And too often we ain't doing that, which is why we keep repeating history. I always tell people, y'all love telling stories about Harold Washington. Oh my God, every
Mhm.
Black History, every Juneteenth, Harold Washington, Harold Washington. Harry
Right.
Washington was the man who got a multi-generational, multicultural, so he can get in office. It wasn't just black people that got that man in office, and he
Mhm.
understood that. And so we always uplift in other communities. People need to uplift us as well. And so I
Yeah.
appreciated you for that, brother.
Yeah. And Harold, thank you. I appreciate that. And Harold Washington understood process.
He
He
did.
understood process. And
Yep.
Harold Washington never walked away from saying and understanding to the black community. He didn't have to go around saying, I'm a black man, I'm a black man. But Harold Washington
Mm-hmm.
never walked away from saying, look, I'm going to be the mayor for the entire city of Chicago. He said,
That's right.
but I am going to make sure that the black community gets its fair share.
That part.
And he was
That
unequivocal
part.
about it. And when Harold
Yep.
Washington, and ironically, it was 29 people in the city council that was against Harold Washington when he first went into office. And here
Mm-hmm.
we have 29 who voted for this alternative budget. But one of the things that Harold Washington did, he said that you should always ask critical questions. You always want to ask critical questions of your public representatives, always.
Yep.
And he went to his opposition's communities and said, look, this is what I'm trying to do for the entire city.
And
This
they're
is what
trying to
I'm
stop me. Yep.
do, and your alders are voting against it. I'm trying to get
Yep.
this done so that your community can have this. I am tired of people throwing out Harold Washington's name, but
Mm-hmm.
never implementing any of Harold Washington's principles.
Lessons. That's right.
You know, that Harold Washington is the person, and I tell the story all the time. I never met the man. I've only seen him one time in person. That he was the person that when I came to Chicago in 1985, I saw this man going to court almost on a daily basis because Ed Verdoliak and Ed Burke was suing the mayor for something. And every time that they went to court, Harold Washington was kicking them in the teeth. He came out with the decision. And as a 25-year-old, just graduated from law school, that moved to the city of Chicago, had no idea, didn't know anybody here, sitting on the side of my bed every night, watching this man who said, who to me was basically said to me, I need to know who this is. I need to know who this man is. I would come home to watch the news to see what happened
Just
between
to see
Harold
what he was talking
Washington
about. Yep.
and the city council. And so he was the person who really catapulted me to saying, you've got to be engaged in the process. You've got to be engaged in the process. And so that's where my lessons come from. You know, not to have, you know, some political alliance with some special group or this or that. Whatever is in the best interest of my community,
The
that is
people.
what I
That's right.
am for. That is what I am
Yep.
for. And whoever is for that, I am in support of them. And whoever is working in opposition of that, then, you know, I have got to speak to that. I said to David Moore, you know, because we used to get into it all the time. I said, David, you're trying to fight me like I know you personally. I don't know you personally. What I am standing against are policies that are antithetical to my community. And if
That's
you
right.
happen to be in support of those policies, then I have got to call you
We got a
out.
problem. That's right.
To understand is I want you to be successful. I want you to be a successful alder person. I want certainly all of the black alder persons, I want them to be successful. But if you are not working in the best interest and supporting policies that are going to lift our communities, I can't be in support of that. And I have to
Yep.
call that out when I see that it is not right. And it's not, you know, to you personally, you just happen to be the person that's there.
Yep.
I would think that a person in public office would want to communicate with people who are out in the public to help them to understand what's really going on. How does this, you know, benefit our communities? How does it, what do the people think about it? Why aren't we having those kind of conversations when when bills or ordinances are being proposed? They should have some legislative aides that are coming to the community and saying, hey, this is what's being proposed.
Yep.
how does this how does this sound to you all? And maybe there's somebody in there who can help you understand, well, wait a second. We got some questions to ask about these policies. How do these policies that are being proposed lift Black people? Because as far as I know, is that science says when you lift things from the bottom, the things at the top rise as well.
That's right.
So we
I
should
like
not
that.
just be focusing on people at the top. Government is supposed to help those who can least help themselves. And
Themselves. Yep.
that's where I work. And I believe that every person in public office, if that's not where your interest is, and your interest is for corporations, then you are not for people, period.
Yep.
Well, listen, before you go, what is your vision for the coming year?
So I'm in the process of making sure that what we're developing in the 20th ward is with the community. And so I have something called a community development team, which are 12 people that I didn't know before I got into office who sit with me when we talk about development. And so they basically figure out, hey, you're developing the community. Is there community spaces? Are you going to make sure that people who live in the community or who were displaced from the community actually have access to it? Want to making sure that people want to develop in our community for the people who are currently here, not for the people they want to bring into the community. I want to make sure that we're at a space where people are making the decision with me. I wanted to take them, like in this time, I took them to City Hall with me, and that it's been a challenge because I got a ward that's like 17% Latinx. Majority of my ward is Black, and the needs are different. What they think and what they want are quite different, but they all make it clear they want safe, clean communities. They want communities that don't have violence in them, and they want to have things to do in the community. And so along with the city, we're trying to develop spaces where people can own institutions, be in the buildings. And so one of my projects on 63rd in Maryland, the people who actually own the businesses are people who live in the building. So they're not traveling. So they save some of that money. And it's actually things that my community wants. And so I've been very intentional about making decisions how I do things. They say it's a part-time job. No, it's not. I take this home with me every night. You can't leave it. Making sure that
Mhm.
my community understands how the city works, how to get services, how to apply for the grants, how to start a business, how to make sure that you know everything that's going on with the city. And so just making sure that people understand that the power that I have is not mine, it's theirs. I'm one
Mhm.
constituent of the 20th ward. There are 49,999 other people in the community. And whether they vote or not, they get to have a say so of how we build our community, and they should also be a part of it. And so it's touch and go. Before during COVID, of course, everybody is on Google. So people attend the meetings. We've come out of COVID, people are starting to come back to those meetings. And so it's like getting them to believe that they have a say so at what actually happens in the community. I always tell people I'm a socialist, and people get pissed, and I don't care. And basically, what it means is we should control the
Well, that's
institutions
because
in our community.
they don't understand what the
And
term
they don't
means.
understand what it actually means. They've added all of this bad stuff to it. If I pay my taxes in the community, I should be able to say how those institutions treat me. And if they don't treat me well, they should be able to leave. Period. But I've also realized that the city work does silo work. So departments don't work together, which is why it takes so long to get certain things together. I realize they pick and choose who they're asking to come to the table. I'm asking everybody to the table, young, old, indifferent, in the middle. I want everybody at the table to tell me what they need. And so I went into the space as an organizer. So that means I'm talking to everybody, whether they agree with me or not, whether they cussing me out, whether they going off on me. I have to work with them. And just because we don't agree on one thing, don't mean we don't agree on the next. And so I've had to use that tough skin I got, and knowing
Mhm.
that everybody's not gonna like you. And I'm at the space in my life where you don't like me, join the club, we got jackets. I don't really care. I am here to do
Yeah.
a job, and I'm here to serve the people in the community. And so it's been difficult because you got to remember every person that then sat in my seat then went to jail. And so I got to stay out of jail, number one. And I'm doing everything to do that. But number two, just watching how I work with people, what I do with people, which is why I don't take money from folks, which is why you will say you want to donate to me, buy them coats for the kids. Maybe you're
Mhm.
the person who pays for an event that we want to throw. You pay for the food, you do that type of things. That way these people don't feel, because these people feel like when they donate money to you, you're beholden to them, and you can see it play out. You
Sure,
see it as it's
sure.
happening. And
Listen,
so
I
it's like
yes,
picking
I
and
saw
choosing
it.
who I'm beholden to.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it play out with your two predecessors, and so um, I think that one of the things is that I was involved in years ago. It was something that was called CART, and this was when Vince Lane was the chair of the Chicago Housing Authority, and we put together something called, it was CART, it was Congregations and Residents Together. And what you're talking about, what you were talking about in terms of the businesses and the people who live in their residence, what we were doing is Vince Lane had found some money that like $60 million that was in the budget that was not being appropriate, was not being utilized. And they thought that if we could go around the community and we could get people in the community, poor people, working class people who live there, and we can get corporations to adopt some of these businesses, to train the people to run these businesses.
Mm-hmm.
We would start these businesses, and the people from the community would run the businesses, manage the businesses, and after 4 or 5 years, they have the opportunity to buy that business, and we had a financing arm that was there to finance them to purchase those businesses. We
Mm-hmm.
got that thing all the way to Congress, and the
Oh
Republicans killed
wow.
it. The
Because they
Republicans
never
killed
want
it.
to see us and our people make it. Never.
Yeah. So that's something that you and I we should sit down and figure out how we can,
Absolutely.
on an incubator basis, we can get that working, because we have got to make sure that we have a society that, we don't even talk about the poor. I don't even hear the word poor mentioned in some of these chambers like it's a dirty word or something.
Yeah,
But
it's
we
just
have,
because we shame people for not having the things that we have, not knowing that that's an elitist concept, that's an elitist
right,
thought. I'm no better
right.
than the people I'm paid to represent. I was once them. I got a link card. I had a medical card. I'm no different. When I
Mhm,
leave this job, I don't know what's next for me. Those are things that I might have to go back to. But as a
mhm.
person, I'm not going to be ashamed for taking care of my family. I'm not going to be ashamed. But also, we have to make sure that people know about the opportunities. What I realize is the city of Chicago and a lot of these corporations are bad with advertisement. There are jobs at the city you can get, but you know nothing about them. You don't even know where to go. And so those are some of the things that I've been trying to change in the city. Is things that I've been talking to every administration about us doing different. Like I want us to have a citywide CBA. While people are excited about the Obama Presidential Center, my community is being priced out. 5 blocks from where I live, they've built two homes for $964,000. I can't afford that. And I'm the elected
Mhm.
official. Who is that for? That is for the people you are trying to bring. And so, had we done a CBA before the land was sold, before ground broke, and said that, hey, these are going to be the things that we put in place to make sure that small landlords can keep their buildings, that people who've been here for more than 5 years can stay at their home, that when the construction come, people from the actual community get to work on versus seeing places from Indiana and Ohio and everywhere else, we could have created something wonderful. But to your point, we don't want to take care of the poor. We tell them to pull them up by their bootstraps, but they don't got the straps.
They don't even have boots. So,
Absolutely. But you got the
yeah,
boots and the straps because y'all
right,
stole it. Because
right.
we still gonna run
It's,
away from this thing around slavery. I am so tired
yeah,
of people talking about slavery is not a thing that happened a long time ago. So did the Holocaust, but you paid them.
yeah, and they want to make sure that you don't forget it. They want to make sure you don't forget
Absolutely.
it. And
But you say
I just
slavery, it's a
believe,
whole thing.
right, within my own business, my own little small business, I believe that if I can't pay a person a decent wage to help me build a product, then I don't need to build that product. I
Yep.
don't need
I
to
make
do
sure
that
every
product.
year I fight for the people in my office to get raises because people who make good money give out good services. You talk about how people get treated. Imagine being in one of these corporations, you working 80 hours a week and they pay you $10, $15 an hour.
Well,
You gonna get the bare minimum.
that's why socialism is a really good system, because socialism says you can get wealthy. It's okay for you to get wealthy, but
But
we're
make
not going
sure
to
I
leave
do
anybody
too.
behind. We're not leaving
Absolutely.
anybody behind.
That's right.
I had the opportunity of knowing um, um, one of the uh, Ben and Jerry, Ben Cohen of Ben and
Hmm.
Jerry's. I had the opportunity to know him, and he helped me to understand how they developed the business. They were two guys who had no interest in having a big business. They were just two guys that had
Right.
dropped out of school and tried to figure out how they were going to take care of themselves, and ended up building this big business.
Hmm.
And they had it as a part of their corporation that no senior management employee or employee would earn more than 7 times the lowest paid employee. So anytime that management went up,
Everybody went
went
up. Yep.
everybody went up. I saw a story today where a man sold his family business for $1.7 billion, but he would not agree to sell that business unless
To the
every
people that
employee
actually
in
worked
that
it.
business
Oh
got
wow, that's good.
$443,000 paid out
Oh,
to
that's
them,
amazing.
every employee, over a period of 5 years. So that you can get wealthy. There's nothing wrong with people getting
Absolutely.
wealthy, but
And I don't
somebody
think people
doesn't
want to
need
be
to be
wealthy.
poor.
People just want to be comfortable. I want to
They
be
want to
able
be
to not
comfortable.
tell my children, you got to wait till I get paid. I want to be able to
Right,
go to the store and say, we ran out of milk. I ain't got to wait till the end of the month, or I don't got to wait till a couple of weeks. Or I don't got to borrow. I have it. I'm able to have a
right,
little cushion. But it's also
right,
us learning about money management. We
right.
don't know
Listen,
money management well.
yeah, I'm a very small business operator, but I don't start a project anywhere. There's nobody who works on a project that I do that earns less than $25 an hour. Not
That's
less
good.
than $25 an hour. When we had the ballroom, when I was had the ballroom with Andy Scully, there was nobody who worked for us at the time that would work. I don't care what the position was, that did not earn $20 an hour, from whether you did cleaning or whether you were a server.
Absolutely.
Nobody. Everybody needed to. There was enough for people to participate, and guess what? At the time, we still did okay. I
Yep.
just believe that you can do well, and you can bring other people along with you so that they can do well. There's no reason that a person needs to be. First of all, I don't believe in billionaires. I don't think anybody should have $1 billion, and that you have poor people around. The idea that we have one person in this country that has more wealth than the bottom 52% of households is insane to me.
But that
That is,
says what this country is and how it is. It
yes,
says of what type of
absolutely.
country we live in.
But we have people who look like you and I right here who are operating in those same attitudes, who are operating those same
It's a
attitudes.
sick system.
It really is very, very sick. That if you want to be wealthy and you have the good fortune of getting wealthy, to me, wealth is you bringing other people along. That's
And people
wealth
don't
building to me.
understand wealth is just not about money. Your health is your wealth. How many of us are
Absolutely.
sick and struggling with stuff and you can't afford your medicine? You can't, but also the amount of money they charging you just to go to the doctor and get this medicine. Like I'm dealing with stuff that I ain't never had to deal with before when I didn't have money. And so it's a sick system to me that in other countries they got universal health care. So for one of the richest countries in the world, we can't have universal health care. Make it make sense. Because
Make
all
it
you
make
care
sense.
about is money.
Yeah, that health is somehow, healthcare is a privilege, or education is a privilege. Good education is a privilege in this
Hmm.
country. That to me is just unconscionable. It's unconscionable to me that any black person, and I say it, any black person who is in a space to make a difference, that is not working to ensure that everybody has access to good health care and a good education, to me is abdicating their role and responsibility in public service, period.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, listen, we got work ahead of us. I believe that we can overcome it. And I believe that the way that we overcome it is we get, as you say, we have to get our young people, we have to get everybody involved in the process,
Yep.
and to get everybody to understand that you have enormous power. See, black people in this region where we are, this doesn't exist all around the country.
It doesn't.
We don't have the numbers in a major metropolitan area like we have here in Chicago and Cook County. That doesn't happen all around the country. And so we are not taking advantage of what we have available to us to ensure that our people are treated equitably and fairly. Because we don't care about people on the north side of Chicago living in their big fine houses and getting wealthy. We don't care about that. That's good. But what we do care about is that they getting all of the largest and the people on the south and west sides of Chicago being stepped
Again,
on.
nothing. But their
Right.
communities got built off money from our communities. But that ain't even a
Absolutely.
conversation. We don't even talk about that. You built the
Yeah.
Wintrust Citadel. You built DePaul Arena with money from our communities. You built all of these big things with money from our communities while saying we don't deserve it, but they get to get it. And so, but Mark,
Wow.
who teaches people that history? Who talks
Right.
about that? When do we have an opportunity to have it? I've been pushing the Black Caucus, and I'll end with this, to have a state of Black Chicago. I've been wanting to do that since I got in office because I feel like the needs of what we needed in the 80s and 90s have definitely changed in the 2000s and up to now. Like, we need to have a real conversation. We need to have a space where we feel safe to say the things we need, say that we want, and talk about how to get them. And so I want
Well,
to do that work with people.
let's figure out how to
Absolutely.
do that. Let's figure out how to do that. Let's figure out and see if we can bring a tape. I think that
Absolutely. And I don't, and this whole
the
thing about Republican versus Democrat, they all doing wrong by us. Every last one of them. I don't care
well,
what
that's
side
what
of
I
the
said.
aisle
I
you
look
on.
through this through a lens of how it impacts the black community, how it impacts the
Absolutely.
black community. Now, the reality is that the Republicans have nothing that they can show that they have demonstrated to where they have advocated for to bring any type of policy that will be beneficial to the black community. The Democratic side of it, we have some issues over there. And I always say that, look, just like your automobile, if you have an automobile and there's some parts on your car that is not working well, you don't throw the entire car away. Take the car to the
Right. You
shop and
replace
fix
the
those parts
parts. That's
that
right.
are not working well so that the whole car works well. That's what I say about the Democratic Party. We have to fix the
Mm-hmm.
parts that are not working well so that the whole car works better for our community. Uh,
Yep.
but but the lens is, for me, is looking through, I can't look in the mirror and pretend that I'm something else other than a black man that came through a black experience. I didn't wake up with a silver spoon in my mouth. We had to put latches on our doors and eat fried bologna sandwiches, and I eat a fried bologna sandwich today. They
I
still
was just
taste
about
good.
to say it is hard to find Oscar Mayer bologna, so I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, I'll have one today. So I'm not above eating peanut butter and jelly. I don't ever want to forget those good old meals
I
that
was
are
just about,
still
we had it all, and I
necessary.
don't think, especially with my generation, I think we felt like we had nothing when we had it all, and we haven't
Yes,
pushed our young people to work for anything. We've given them everything because we thought we had it so bad. Like, my kids can jump rope, they hula hoop, they can play jacks. Not a lot of young people, but my granddaughter, we're teaching her that now. She's like, Nana, don't none of my friends do this. It's because they are not teaching you, they're not passing it down. We had
right,
fun just sitting on the porch. We didn't have to
right.
go anywhere. We enjoyed the free zoo. We enjoyed the free activities. We don't got to pay for everything. And our kids don't even remember stuff like that. They remember the fun stuff. They remember just spending time with you. And so there are just some
Mhm.
things that we got to go back to in the Black community and go back to normalizing, sitting on the porch, just having a conversation with your kids, playing
Right.
cards with them, board games, like having
Right.
a conversation.
You can be on the block all week long and not leave the block and have a
Hmm.
great time.
Listen, I was a stoop kid. I'm still a stoop kid. I still come home from
Yeah.
work, and if it's warm enough, I sit on the porch. My neighbors will walk by, wave. Occasionally, somebody like, "Could I talk to you?" You got 5 minutes because I'm on my time. But I allow that to happen. But it also brings me back to how we had a community that we didn't really understand and that we
Yeah.
really didn't appreciate.
Yeah. 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 I come from a small town in Miami, Florida called Richmond Heights. And we did not know, I did not know until I was a grown adult that the community that we grew up in was a community that was built for military Black veterans
Oh
uh,
wow!
by by a retired white Air Force pilot who saw substandard housing being built for military Black veterans that came out of World War II.
Hmm.
He went and got a grant and bought that land, which was an old Army base, and built these homes in that community. We just thought we were Black kids that lived in a Black community. We had no idea that it was built.
That was built especially for you to protect you.
Right.
Yep.
And so, and they never taught that to us in school. The school that
Of
we went
course
to, the
not.
grammar school that we went to, was named after the man who built the town. That was never taught to
No
us in
idea
school
who it was.
who he
Wow.
was, right? We went to a
We are
French
dangerous
office.
when we know our history.
Yeah. And so I came home. I was in Chicago. I had graduated from college and law school. Went home one Christmas. I think I was about 28 years old. And my mother was going across the street and she was going to a program. I asked her where she's going. She says, "Oh, I'm going over here to this program that they're having at Frank C. Martin about the history." And I said, "I want to go." So I went to it and I learned the history of the community that I grew up in that they never taught us in school, in grammar school, in junior high or senior high school. Never taught. Our own parents didn't teach us the history of our community that was built there for us in that community. And boy, we had everything. If we were poor, we didn't know we were poor because we had it
We
all.
didn't. I tell people all the time I didn't know we was working poor because my father and my mother figured it out. We ate
Yeah,
every night.
right,
We had
right.
toilet paper. We had clean clothes.
Right. Well, in addition, that the dollar back then went a lot further than the dollar
Further than the
did
dollar now. Yep.
today. Yeah, because you if you were working on minimum wage back then, you made enough money to actually pay a mortgage, to pay
Right. To live
mortgage,
comfortable.
take care of a family.
Yep.
So those are the kinds of inequities that we have to continue to fight against to make sure that we lift people out of impoverished conditions. Because I don't believe that when I came to Chicago, there were two poor white communities. There are no poor white communities in Chicago anymore, and there should
Not
not be
one.
any Black communities
Poor Black
in Chicago.
community. That's right.
There should not be any, and we certainly should continue to work to make sure that we bring that to an end, because it should not exist. Just because you're Black does not mean that you have to have poor people in our communities when everybody else communities are thriving. I fundamentally don't believe that. And it is unconscionable to me to have 193 Black people in political offices in this state and in this city and this county, and we have poor Black communities. That's unconscionable to me. Unconscionable. And I think that we have to do whatever we can to make sure that either we get Black people who are working against our people out of the spaces and put people there who will do the work to bring the equity to our communities.
Yep.
And so those are the kind of people that I want to work with.
Absolutely.
All right, listen, I want to thank you for coming on. It's always a
Of
pleasure to talk
course.
with you. You know,
You as well.
let's get together on some of those things, anything that we can work together on to do that. I do a lot of work in Woodlawn. Woodlawn is where I can say that I made my good fortune. And so my heart is still there. I'm helping some young Black men there who are building some housing there, funding them to get their projects built. And I'm proud to see young Black men who are developing housing there,
Absolutely,
redeveloping
because we need them.
in that community. And so Woodlawn has a you know, a special place in my heart, and I certainly in anywhere in the Black community. But you know, I spend probably 95% of my time in the Black community, working in the Black community. So in terms of my business life as well as my advocacy work, but I want to do whatever we can do, and I just believe that we can do it. I believe that we can do it in our time to bring our community out of the conditions that they're in so that we can walk around. I always say, very funny, I would say, I want to see Black women walking around pushing strollers, trying to figure out what birthday parties they're going to plan for their kids on the weekends, like white women do on the north side. You know, and I believe that we
Absolutely.
can have that kind of, well. All right, listen, the new year is coming. Thank you for closing out 2025 with us here at the People Show. And you know that you can always call on me, and I know that I can
Absolutely.
always call on you to work together for the best interest of our people. And certainly I appreciate everything that you are doing and the voice that you have down there in that sometimes wilderness.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you. Happy New Year.
All right, Happy New Year to you and to your family as well. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, folks, that is the Alderwoman of the 20th Ward, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. You know, we had a great exchange there, but I believe, again, in order for us, in order for her, in order for people like her who have the heart and the mindset that they have, you and I as citizens, we have to play our role. And our role is organizing ourselves together to be a unified voice to support policies that are going to be lifting our communities. And what are policies? What is in policies? In any public policy, just remember this, in any public policy, every piece of public legislation is undergirded by what? Money, currency. So when we talk about public policy, we're talking about how the money is invested in our communities in those areas between the bookmarks of education and economics. And there is plenty of opportunity in between. That's why when I hear people say, well, we got to do for self, yeah, we have to do for self. We have to do for self by making sure that our resources, our dollars that we pay into a tax system are equitably invested in our communities to lifting our communities up out of the doldrums that some of our communities are in. And we have to help those areas of our communities who need it the most. Some of our other communities are doing okay, and they still have to be supported. But we have to look at where are our communities suffering the most? Where are our communities suffering the most? And what do we need to do to lift our communities out of that suffering? If we want to have a safe, healthy community, secure community, then we have to make sure that there are no poor people in our communities. And how do we do that? By making sure that they have access to great education, that they have access to a great paying job, that they have access to great health care. Those are the infrastructures that make for an agrarian community, making sure that people have an equitable interest and equitable access to having an egalitarian community. That means where everybody is being able to participate and to lifting people up. You don't have to have winners and losers in order for somebody to do well. There doesn't have to be poor people, and there doesn't have to be people who are not doing well in order for me or somebody else to do well. There is plenty of wealth in this community, in our city, plenty of wealth in our country, that we do not have to have people living in impoverished conditions. If we allow for ourselves or allow for somebody else to determine the narrative for our communities, if we allow for people to call our communities bad, there is no such thing as a bad community. There are communities that have bad services that are badly represented, but there is no bad communities. And we need to ourselves readjust how we identify and address our communities. We have communities that have challenges. We have communities that are certainly underrepresented and under invested in, that bad policies, but we don't have bad communities. We have people who are engaging in activity, that what I call high-risk activity, that are engaging in activity that's antithetical to an agrarian, healthy community. All of that is tied to, the majority of it is tied to people not having access to a healthy, enriched lifestyle, meaning having access to opportunity. We can straighten those things out. That is not something that we have to wait 20 years or 30 years for. We can put together a plan that in the next 5 to 10 years, we can see communities that are challenged in Inglewood, communities that are challenged in Roseland, communities that are challenged in Woodlawn, communities that are challenged on the west side. We can see we can put together a real plan that is partnered with our government, that there is a plan for an urban planning development. That means that this is a comprehensive development that includes all of those tentacles for education, healthcare, and security and opportunity for people, for us to have strong, vibrant communities. That could happen. That could happen, but it will not happen if you and I, and a broader section of us, if we do not challenge the status quo. You heard the Alderwoman say that the system is fixed, the system is rigged, and it may be, but it doesn't mean that it can't be unrigged. We can do this. Think about this. There is no other ethnic group in a major metropolitan area like we are in Chicago, in Cook County, in the Chicagoland area. No other group that has the numbers of a voting constituents like we have in the Black community. It does not exist. Does not exist. Now, look, if you want to call and you want to express yourself, then you can do that. Now, you know, I'm going to go and end with this. You know, it's the last program for 2025. I'm not going to go into the long narrative of it, but you know what I am going to tell you about is about the power of forgiveness, which is the power of liberation, meaning that you know somebody who is someone that you have had some differences with in your family, or maybe some close relative or some close friend, that you know that in your heart of hearts, you want to reconcile with, but you have not been able to find the way to do it. Well, I want to tell you that you're looking at somebody who liberated themselves by allowing themselves to forgive someone who I loved, but I was carrying up this bottle of a bag of anger and bitterness that was masked in hate, but it was more hurt. But when I decided to forgive my father, and it wasn't that I decided, God had put me in a place that I couldn't resist it. But when I actually did it, I won't say that I decided, because that would not be telling the truth. But when I actually did it, when I was compelled to do it, and I let it go, it liberated my life. It liberated my life. And I went on to have a great 3 or 4 years of my father's life, of his remaining days. We had a wonderful, wonderful relationship. And I had the honor and opportunity to give my father's eulogy at his service. But more importantly, when I forgave my father, I liberated me. I learned about the power of forgiveness and how that liberates one's soul. And for anybody who is watching, you know, going into 2026, that person that you really in your heart know that you want to reconcile with, just go reconcile with them. Reconcile with that person. Free them of whatever the hurt and harm is, and you will liberate yourself and go on to have a great life. Because what you don't want is for that person to expire and you regret that you did not reconcile with them when you know you wanted to. And I will always, going into the new year, which is a year of renewal and restoration and a fresh start, always encourage you to allow yourself to forgive someone else and liberate yourself. That is always going to be my message around the holiday season, because it's the time that we come together with family. We have those few times a year, and especially around Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever your celebration is, around this holiday season, where family and close friends come together. And there are some of us that are at odds with each other. And I would say, those of us and those of you, I'm not talking about people who you have moved on from, but I'm talking about people who are intricately in your life, and somebody that you know that you're at odds with and you want to reconcile with, but you haven't been able to figure out how to do it. I'm going to tell you, it's just as simple. Go to them and free them without explanation. Go to them, free them, give them a hug. They'll give you a hug back, and you both will be liberated, and you will go on and you will be free of that big bag of rocks of bitterness that you have been carrying, that you know you just wanted to drop. Drop them right now and go to that person and liberate yourself by freeing them and forgiving them. All right, look, we got a few minutes left to go. If you want to call me, you can, 951-221-8221. If anything that you heard that you want to share with us tonight, I certainly talked about a story earlier that I heard, that I read about, and this was about a man who had a family business, and they sold the family business, and they gave bonuses out to all of the employees as a condition of selling the business of more than $400,000 to each one of the employees. Now, if that is not a form of socialism, and a form of socialism that actually works, I don't know what is. Here is a man who had 540 full-time employees. 540 full-time employees. And as a result of those employees, $240 million that he made sure that each one of those employees got paid a bonus of an average of $442,000 at the sale of this company that he sold for $1.7 billion. And the bonus checks averaged of about $442,000 for 540 employees that had been there, stuck out themselves with the company. And he would not sell the company if that condition was not met. And so I believe that that is an example. That is an example. One example of what, not that, we're giving people $400,000, but the example is that we can make sure that everybody in this country has access to healthcare, has access to a great education, and has access to an opportunity to having a good paying job. And I believe that we can have a real egalitarian society where we will see a real strong, great America at that point. This idea of make America great again, you can take the "g" or the off. Now, you want to have MAG, make America great? We can make America great. We could make America reach its greatness. Make America great again doesn't exist because there was no great again in America. When we look back through the history of America, we've made some strides. We've made some good strides in certain areas. But to say that America is great, I would beg to differ on it. I think there's great opportunity for America to be great, but there's a lot of work that has to be done and a lot of people that needs to be lifted and helped. And not that we don't have the wherewithal to do that. We've got the wherewithal to do that. We've got to have the will to do it. We've got to have the want to do it. We got to have the commitment to doing it, to looking outside of ourselves, looking outside of ourselves to say that nobody should be left behind. Get rid of the attitude of seeing somebody in need and you repeating that old cynical statement of, well, they look just as healthy as I do. You don't know the conditions of somebody just by looking at them. Somebody standing on a street corner asking you for your spare change takes a lot of effort for somebody to do that. That takes a lot of heart for somebody to be able to stand out in the cold or the hot, or just standing out on a corner with a cup asking for your spare change. That's not somebody who has this gimmick to get wealthy and with these cynical statements of people saying, well, I saw a person standing on a corner and they went down a corner and got in a Porsche. Bunch of nonsense. People are not standing on a corner with cups asking for change. I believe that we have within America, that we can do away with people having to be in those conditions. We can certainly reduce it. Whether we're going to fix it overnight, we're not going to fix it overnight. But I think if we had the will and the character and the courage within the public spaces, that we can fix a lot of these ills that we see going on. It is unconscionable. It is unconscionable to suggest that people are getting bonuses in corporations of hundreds of millions of dollars a year as CEOs, and we've got people who are going bankrupt because they have a health condition in those same companies. People who are losing their homes or having to mortgage their homes so that they can pay for medical treatments that they need. If we have that those kinds of situation. So, but I believe that we have everything that it takes. We have the resources there, but we have to play our role. We have to get into our roles. So I am hoping that you and I, going into 2026, as we wrap up this final podcast of 2025, that in 2026, we are going to work a little harder, work a little smarter, but more importantly, that we are going to work together so that we can hold those persons accountable. Those people who are in our aldermanic offices, those people who are in our county commissioner offices, those people who are in our state legislatures. We must hold all of these persons, the governor, the mayor, all of the people who are in those governmental spaces. We have entrusted them with the power to manage the resources, that we have. And so we should not stand there, stand by, and not allow for people to do their jobs and have equitable representation. I want to play a clip, and it's going to go over, and you're probably not going to hear all of it, but I certainly want to thank intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio. Certainly thank you very much for Earl Winfrey and Wandaby. Thank you for having us in this space every Monday night from 7 o'clock until 9. We look forward to continuing in the year to come, and hopefully that we're bringing great programming and that we are bringing great content for the empowerment of our people. I'm not going to play that clip tonight. I'm going to bring you that clip because I want you to see the entirety of this clip of something that was that I saw Bernie Sanders have, who has been someone who has been a great advocate for making sure that we have access to universal health care in this country. And he did a questionnaire about that. So I'm going to bring that on our very first podcast of 2026 as we come back on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio. But again, I can't reiterate this enough. I can't reiterate it enough that it is so incumbent upon you and I. It's incumbent upon you and I pray and I hope that those of us who have maybe seen things differently, we have some ideological differences, but that we will commit ourselves to, because we all want the same thing for our communities. We want for our communities to be better. And what we have to do is we have to take some of those people who are in public positions that are working for the interests of somebody else, so that the masses of us can get those people to work for the interest of our communities. And the way that we do that is we organize ourselves together, that they see that we have organized ourselves in positions, in numbers, that we have the wherewithal to say, we want you to be successful, but your being successful means that you're legislating and you're working towards public policy that is going to lift and empower the lives of the people of our communities, lifting people out of poverty, giving people the kinds of opportunities so that there is some equitable share of the people from our communities, and our communities are built and strengthened. One of the things that the Alderwoman was talking about, how, the arena, the Wintrust Arena that was built from the dollars of TIF dollars from our communities, the down at Navy Pier, the $28 million Ferris wheel is built from TIF dollars from our community. That Alderman Pat Dow, who voted with this alternate group, who allowed for that to go and didn't even realize, didn't even understand it, because I was at that city council committee hearing where she acknowledged that she wanted to know more about where what this was, and voted for something that she didn't even understand, that she had voted to support TIF dollars that were supposed to be used to build the Wintrust Arena had been shifted without her knowledge. How that happened, I don't know, to Navy Pier. My point is that those are the kinds of things that we have to put a stop to. $28 million. $28 million there, $2 billion that we gave to these developments. Okay, that is going to do it for me. I'm sorry. I have to sign off on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio, but I'm going to continue on here for just a couple of minutes. For those of you who are still with me, that it is so important, and I'm closing out 2025 by saying to you and committing to you, I want to do better. I want to be better prepared. I want to be more cohesive and more cooperative in our communities, working with you so that we can lift our communities and strengthen our communities. Now, if you are not a part or participating in our meetings on Thursday nights, we are going to be starting up on the 8th of January with our first meeting of 10 by 10 to win on Zoom. If you would just text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385, that is text 855-909 to the number 1385. 855-909-1385. Text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. Again, text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. And then that way you will be in our text alert and you will receive the Zoom link for the Thursday night 10 by 10 to win meeting. And what we're doing simply is organizing Black people so that we can develop a large independent Black voting bloc so that we can hold our representatives accountable to deliver what we want and what we need for our communities, to have that egalitarian community so that we have safe, secure, strong opportunities in educational and housing and all of those things that every other thriving community in Chicago and Cook County has. We want to make sure that all of our communities on the south and west sides of Chicago have that same access. That's what we want. That's what we want, and that's what we have to work towards. So I want to thank you all for joining me for this last podcast for 2025 here on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I want to thank Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, who she graced us with that. And look, I don't make and go out of my way to invite a lot of people from public officials on, because there are some public officials that, first of all, they're not going to come in on the program and answer to some of the questions. And but I will talk with people like Jeanette Jeanette Taylor, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, who I have a great deal of respect for. And even though, and what she was talking about, she was in that round, and again, 10 by 10 to win, even though it is a political action committee that I founded, I'm not the last word in terms of how we go about the democratic process of supporting candidates. And so I believe that I can't remember. I can't remember how that went, but I think I'm gonna have to go back and look and see who that was, because I believe that Alderman Taylor did, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that she did win with us when she said she wasn't our first church choice. I believe that she did become the choice. However, I am a supporter of hers because I believe that her heart and her head is in the right place for the people, the masses of our community, and certainly for the people who are underrepresented, to making sure that they're not left behind, doing all that she can to do that. And when it doesn't happen, she is not afraid of voicing her concerns about that. We need more people like that in public service. We need more people like that in public office, certainly from our communities. We need that. So going into 2026, I am going to continue to advocate on for the best interests of our communities, to enrich our communities. It is a tireless, thankless sometimes work, but it is certainly worth it. There's an old saying that if you work it, it will work. So work it, because we are worth it. And I believe that we all know that we are worth it. So I want to thank you all for being here with us every Monday night from 7 o'clock till 9 on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. If you would be so kind to go on our YouTube page at Mark J. Wallace, The People's Show, and register there, and like and share with others and ask them to register there. Let's build our audience so that we can get the word out to more people, to get more participation. There is no cost whatsoever. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription or anything like that, because I'm not looking for money here. But if we build up a strong enough audience, we could probably earn some money that we could support the causes and the efforts that are important to building up the infrastructure politically, so that we can challenge those people who are in public spaces to make sure that they are representing the interests of our communities. So let's do that together in 2026. All right, I'm going to sign off now. I want to thank all of you who tuned in to the podcast, and certainly thank again Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor for coming on and spending this time with us on our last podcast for 2025. And I want to say to you all, have a happy, healthy, safe, and forgiving new year. Bring it in with no regrets, meaning free somebody else and liberate yourself. Talk to you all next Monday night, 2026. Good night.